Inflation is a monetary phenomenon fundamentally, and we need to understand this. Why? Because we are hearing all the time that we have different excuses for inflation. The first one, obviously, was that the same people that said that there was no risk of inflation, that said that the inflationary pressures were due to the base effect, due to the supply chain disruptions, temporary, transitory, and now persistent, are saying that it's due to the war. Very, very careful with those people because the credibility is inexistent. Let's start with why it is a monetary phenomenon. First, you create an enormous amount of currency, and that increase in money supply starts going mostly to financial assets. You see huge expansion of multiples, bond yields go down, and at the same time you see multiple expansion in infrastructure, high prices of real estate, etc. But even before the pandemic, we already had warning signs of inflationary pressures. For example, in food, the index of food prices globally was rising to all-time highs prior to the COVID-19 crisis. Supply chain disruptions might help inflationary pressures, but they're not the cause in itself. What we're seeing is more money going to relatively scarce assets, supply chain disruptions, commodities, etc. You see two effects. One, massive injection of liquidity that goes to what? It goes to government spending. That government spending creates an artificial demand financed by newly created money, and you basically get at the same time an underweight position in commodities and financial markets to an overweight position in commodities and scarce assets. More money going to relatively scarce assets. More importantly, in the period of the COVID-19 crisis, you had a shutdown of the economy. In the middle of that shutdown, central banks decided to inject masses of liquidity into growth was double-digit, and at the same time spend it entirely going to checks and to government current spending. Then the reopening happens, and with the reopening effect, you have this monetary effect of huge increase in government spending financed by newly created money. And with it, to protect from inflation, you have investors going from underweight commodities and underweight energy to overweight commodities and overweight energy. Double whammy. Very important to understand as well. All prices do not go up at the same time for spurious reasons. The reason why all prices are rising at the same time is fundamentally because there is too much liquidity in the system, too much money created going to the same scarce assets. And the fact that inflation, when it is core inflation, excluding energy and food, is showing the same level of increase and very high tendency to continue to rise, it is fundamentally because there is such massive transfer all the time of that huge amount of money to scarce assets. So inflation is the loss of purchasing power of all of the fiat currencies that have done what I just mentioned in tandem as well. The pound, the euro, the dollar, and most of emerging economies have done exactly the same. Massive liquidity injections, more money, less purchasing power. This is the problem. Commodities may fluctuate, obviously they will. However, we need to understand that the effect coming from monetary policy is not going to change significantly if central banks continue to have negative real interest rates and at the same time continue to be the predominant force in purchasing government bonds. Remember that inflation doesn't happen one-to-one with money creation. There is a lag effect. Second, remember that on top of the newly created money and the growth of newly created money, you have the change of underweight to overweight positions that leads to further inflationary pressures. That is what is happening to use any other excuse is simply a subterfuge to continue with the debasement of fiat currencies. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, leave your comments below, and keep defending freedom. Thank you very much.